Hi, folks. Welcome to episode 7 of Finding Your Hidden Superpower for people who are suffering from autism and Aspergers and other people that are neurodiverse. So, what I want to get into is I've been talking about this AppsPie test, the AppsPie quiz. I'm hoping that some of you will take the challenge and take the test. So, what I want to do is for each episode moving further, I want to try and deal with these questions. So, there's 5 control questions. I think that that's the way it works. But anyway, what I'm going to be focusing in on for the next 5 episodes are your AppsPie talents. So, what it's the quiz results, what it says in AppsPie talent, this group contains intellectually related broader autism cluster traits. Typical traits are related to strong interests that can become obsessive. For example, having strong interests, hyperfocusing, collecting information, good long term memory related to interests, figuring out how things work, making connections between things. Other traits are related to information processing, for example, noticing details, finding patterns, unusual imagination, unique ideas. Some people have special talents, for examples, numbers, language, computers, and music. And a high score related to this breakdown of 5 different questions can be related to obsessive compulsive disorder and Asperger's. So, moving forward, the first question is, do you tend to get absorbed by your special interests that you forget to or ignore everything else? Um, that can happen. Otherwise, it can be known as obsessive compulsive behavior. Other things that can we can point out through it is our ability to use the trance state. So what I did was I broke down, can't probably see this in detail, but I'm going to be using this to dive in. So what it's called is a decisional balance. So you take a page, you crosshatch it into 4 different categories. One is if you don't make any changes, and the other below that is if you make changes. And then you're asking yourself, what are the disadvantages of making no change? What are the advantages of making no change? What are the disadvantages of making change? What are the advantages of making change? So I'm just going to go through this with the things that I've written down. So disadvantages uh, for no change. So, one of the problems is that breaking this question down, do you tend to get so absorbed by your special interests that you forget or ignore everything else? So, if you're forgetting to eat, if you're forgetting to go to the bathroom, those are some severe forgetfulness problems. Because when you need to go, you might not be able to go exactly when or where you're at. Um, so other things is that you could forget your responsibilities, and so all of a sudden you need to go to work, but you're at home working on your own side project that you're not getting any money for, but you like it a lot, and so all of a sudden you're late for work. And does your boss care that you were late for work because you were doing something you liked? Of course not. You could easily get into trouble. You can easily get written up or be looked at as unreliable by the people that you have responsibilities with. So, uh, going in more in depth, so what I wrote down is disadvantages of no change. You only focus on what you want to focus in on, not necessarily what's important, but what's important to you at the time. You may forget to write the rent check or pay some bills that are due, and all of a sudden you're doing something that you like to do, but you're not taking care of your responsibilities. Uh, this can lead to being too focused on any particular subject matter, can lead towards obsessive compulsive disorder. So, when it's a disorder, it's definitely harming you in the long term, even though in the short term you're getting satisfaction from it. But socially, people that are obsessive compulsive can become annoying to a lot of other people, and they can it becomes a dysfunction, and can easily harm them in the long haul. Um, so people who are focused just on one thing and getting that done, they are feeding into their ego. So I put down caught up in ego, focusing on what's important to you and not necessarily what's important to everyone. Everyone that you have responsibilities and delegations, you've been delegated tasks to do, and you are not necessarily doing that. Um, Another thing is that you may feel this what you're doing, even though in the short term it may be making you feel good, but in the long term it can make you feel separate from others, because you could be doing something that other people are not interested in. So what can happen is that you don't have as many things in common with other people. So your ability to connect to others can be interfered with this with what you're doing, becoming obsessed with other things. So also you can be feeling separate, alone, and then that can get you into your ego. Whereas helping others, you might not be helping others. You may be only helping yourself. Uh, and also you may increase your ability to deal with other people, because if you're always alone doing your thing, you're not going to be around other people. So when you're around other people, you can be feeling strange, you can be feeling awkward, and you can, unless you practice being social, you're going to lose those abilities. So it's good to, it's good to focus, but sometimes there can be some major disadvantages. So, one of the advantages, so diving into the advantages that we probably already figured out, are that we can relieve stress by doing something. That's one of the things, one of the reasons why people go back into their obsessive compulsive disorders, and or go back into repetitive um, tasks, is because they can relieve stress, relieve anxiety. um, Advantages are that if you're in a trance state, totally focused on one thing only, you're able to use parts of your brain that other people may not be able to use as well, and that can help you with hyper learning. Uh, Obviously, you'd be better focused. You're connecting to the best senses that you're able to use each and every day, because you're using those each and every day when you're doing this repetitive behaviors, and focusing on what you like to do. Uh, and you're increasing your own power and of what you know and what you can go to. and how you can go to using those same senses and being able to get tasks done that you've done repetitively, so it becomes easier and easier. And a lot of the times it gets rid of frustration because when we're doing new things it's hard to learn, uh, just for everyone, and so we can build that up. So what are disadvantages of change? Um, so from now becoming hyper focused, you're now becoming distracted because you're trying to do multiple things at once, or think of multiple thoughts. The you know learning how to multitask better can be very difficult. Um, so you can become distracted, and you can have feelings of inadequacy because you're not knowing how to do these new tasks, and then there's a whole learning process that has to be brought in, and then you have to learn, and then you can get frustrated. So you're going to be relying on your weaker senses because we all have senses, but we tend to focus in on those senses that work best for us. But in order to learn things differently and to strengthen different new ways of doing things, we're going to have to learn how to use our senses better that we haven't been using. Uh, definitely we'll have to deal with the frustration of having to learn different things. So the advantages of change. So we can learn how to multitask better. We can learn how to communicate to others better because we'll have to reach out to others in order to learn how to do these new tasks in different ways. We'll have to look at new perspectives, and so we'll be able to understand others better in the long term. In the short term, we'll be more frustrated because we'll have to understand how other people think, and they're thinking differently than we are. So we're going to have to work on being patient and understanding how others think and feel, and how to respond to them, and how to accept how they respond to us. So and bottom line is you're going to be increasing your unused powers, and you'll become a more well rounded person. And so, this is one of the reasons why we should become less absorbed with our special interests, even though we tend to become absorbed with our special interests, or a lot of us do, um, because we don't want to forget our responsibilities when we're focusing on what we want to do. And we can't ignore the rest of the world because the rest of the world is asking from us things that we need to do, our obligations. So we have to make sure that we do put in place ways of bringing us out of trance, bringing us out of that hyper focus. And some simple things is that set a timer on how long you want to work on a specific task. Sometimes people can sit, and even if they have to do a special task, and that task is functional, sometimes they're going to forget to eat. So then they can become irritable because of low blood sugar. They might forget to use the bathroom, and then all of a sudden they got to use the bathroom, but somebody else is using the bathroom. So you gotta understand that some of these triggers that you're ignoring, you're going to have to focus in on allowing yourself to take breaks, because you also want to get up and walk around at least for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and once an hour or once every 2 hours. You want to set aside extra time because that's actually going to help with your fitness, with your health. Because just say you have problems with your blood sugar, low blood sugar uh, is also going to be affected when all you're doing is sitting. So cardiovascularly, you're not going to be as healthy as all you do is sit for 8 hours at a time and don't move around and then eat a bunch of junk food that's just is sitting right next to you instead of preparing meals that are healthy for you. Um, you also can help lower your blood pressure by just getting up and moving around because it increases circulation. So instead of that blood pooling around, you're going to be able to get it to move around. So, uh, so those are some things to think about. So if you tend to get so absorbed by special interests that you forget or ignore everything else, you got to realize that everything else is going to be in your life uh, at the end of the time that you have gotten your stuff done. So that stuff's not going to go away. It's only going to get backed up, and other people can get triggered because they perceive you as being selfish sometimes because you're so hyper focused on what you want to get done. So um, you also want to show other people that you're thinking about them and that you want to help them with whatever they're having help with. Because if you don't help others, you will not have those people in your life. And if you want people in your life, if you don't want to be a hermit or living, all alone and not having any friends or not having any people that are interested in what you're interested in, um, you will just continue to do this and not get the results that you're looking for in life. We are human creatures, and human creatures are um, best when we are reaching out to others. We are not solitary mammals. We need others, even though sometimes we don't think we do. But then all of a sudden we get lonely, we get frustrated, we can tend to get depressed or anxious, and then we don't have others in our lives anymore because they just thought that we lost interest in them, and so we're not there. So, with that, I thank you and have a great day.